Have you ever been lying awake at, say, 2 a.m., your brain just endlessly looping through some embarrassing thing you said 5 years ago? Or, feeling this random spike of anxiety about an email you haven't even written yet? Hello, and welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a really dense, honestly fascinating concept about how our human boundaries are actually built. If you've ever wondered why our brains seem literally hardwired to stubbornly hold on to uncomfortable feelings, like no matter how much we try to optimize them or therapy them away, well, you're definitely in the right place. We're going to examine a text that completely flips our standard understanding of survival psychology on its head. It suggests that the parts of ourselves we are always trying to fix, they might actually be the exact mechanisms keeping us safe. All right, let's dive right into this. So, what if anxiety and guilt are actually essential survival tools? Seriously, I want you to just sit with that idea for a second. In our modern world, we spend billions, literally billions of dollars trying to completely eradicate feelings of anxiety, guilt, inadequacy, you name it. We basically view them as bugs in our mental software, right? But the source material we're decoding today presents a radically different paradigm. It frames these traditionally negative emotions not as accidental flaws or, mental weaknesses, but as highly functional, sophisticated mechanisms that are actually designed to protect us. It's a super provocative idea, so let's break down exactly how this works. Section 1, the inherited survival response. This brings us to the foundational premise of our text. Notice the specific language being used here. Our inherited survival response. The text notes that these behaviors happen within a specific module where participants actually learn. So this tells us a couple of things. First, this isn't just random. It's an evolutionary inheritance passed down through generations. And second, it requires a learning environment. Think of it kind of like a built-in software boot camp for the brain. You aren't just born knowing exactly how to survive the whole shebang. Instead, you're born with this inherited biological curriculum that actively teaches you the skills you need to navigate a really dangerous world. Section 2, dual tools for survival, primitive and verbal. So, what exactly is the curriculum in this inherited module? Well, the source text claims that participants have to master two very distinct foundational skills. And this brilliantly illustrates the duality of the human condition. On one side, we have primitive survival behavior. This is our ancient, instinctual fight-or-flight animal brain. It's quick, it's visceral, and it reacts without even thinking. But then, on the flip side, we have verbal problem-solving ability. This is our high-level cognitive function, our capacity to communicate, strategize, and think abstractly. Now, the text emphasizes that we learn both. We absolutely need the raw, primitive instinct to detect immediate threats, but we also need the advanced verbal problem-solving to navigate complex social structures and essentially outsmart those threats. It's really the marriage of the beast and the philosopher inside all of us. Section 3, learning negative emotions, anxious and guilty. Now, let's see how this builds, because we're about to hit the absolute most counterintuitive part of the entire text. Once we have our dual tools, that primitive instinct and verbal problem solving, the curriculum takes a really surprising, almost dark turn. The source explicitly states the participants would learn how to feel anxious, ignorant, and guilty. Notice the phrasing there very carefully. It doesn't say we just happen to feel these things by accident. It says we learn how to feel them. I mean, why on earth would an evolutionary module go out of its way to teach us to feel ignorant or anxious? Let's analyze these three learned emotional states one by one. First up, anxious. The module teaches us how to feel anxious. Just think about the utility of anxiety in a pure survival context. Anxiety is hypervigilance, right? It's that physiological state of scanning the horizon for a threat that hasn't even arrived yet. If you're entirely relaxed, well, you're vulnerable. By actively learning how to generate and sustain anxiety, the human animal basically ensures it's never caught completely off guard. It's a cultivated survival skill of pure anticipation. Second, ignorant. Now, this is perhaps the strangest mechanism from the text. Why learn to feel ignorant? Well, in survival, overconfidence is literally deadly. If you just assume a quiet rustle in the bushes is just the wind, you might walk right into a predator. Learning how to feel ignorant means learning how to maintain a beginner's mind. It forces you to acknowledge unknown variables, ask questions, and really rely on that verbal problem-solving ability we talked about a minute ago. Feeling a lack of awareness is the exact thing that drives you to seek out crucial, life-saving information. Third, guilty. I really want you to consider the immense weight of guilt. It's such a heavy, painful emotion. So why learn it? Well, guilt is the ultimate social glue. If primitive survival behavior keeps the individual alive, Guilt is what keeps the tribe alive. It's that internal course correction that stops us from harming our allies. So the crucial takeaway here is this. Anxiety prepares us for the future, ignorance forces us to gather information, and guilt keeps our social alliances completely intact. But the source text reveals an even deeper, much more tactical purpose for these three heavy emotions.
Section 4. The mechanics of rejection. Drawing boundaries.
This brings us to the definitive answer as to exactly why this survival module puts us through the ringer. Let's walk through the exact causal progression described in the text. Step 1. We learn our primitive survival and verbal abilities. Basically, we get our basic toolkit. Step 2. We're taught by our inherited module to feel anxious, ignorant, and guilty. We develop our emotional warning systems. But the real twist comes at Step 3, because those first two phases, they're merely preparation for a decisive final action. Step 3 is the ultimate deployment of these skills, rejecting others without those feelings. These feelings will enable them to reject others without those feelings. This right here is the ultimate punchline and the dramatic twist of our source material. The entire purpose of cultivating these heavy, painful, negative emotions is to serve as a diagnostic tool. Think about it. If you have learned to feel anxious, ignorant, and guilty to survive, what kind of person lacks those feelings? Well, someone who isn't anxious is reckless, basically a danger to the group. Someone who never feels ignorant is arrogant and will probably lead the tribe straight into disaster. And someone who never feels guilty is essentially a sociopath, completely untethered from any social cohesion. These internal feelings of ours act as an interpersonal radar. They empower us to draw hard social boundaries and outright reject those who don't possess the exact same biological checks and balances. Which leaves us with this final thoughts. If our internal anxiety, our feelings of ignorance, and our guilt are actually sophisticated boundary mechanisms designed to protect us, we really have to look outward. The next time you feel a massive wave of anxiety or a sharp pang of guilt around a specific person or situation, don't just ask how to make the feeling stop. Ask yourself, what is that ancient inherited survival module trying to warn you about? And who is it telling you to reject?